in Easter terms, you can't have a resurrection without being dead first. You can't have a resurrection without being dead. See, in our culture, I think we tend to celebrate self-reliance over self-poverty. Right, guys? I'm all about self-reliance, but that whole self-poverty thing is a little bit weak. I don't really relate to that. Let me give you an example of my own life. This past summer, I wrote it down just because there's so much detail in this story. It's a fun story. I didn't want to leave anything out, but last summer, my son Ethan and I went to a Yankees game. Someone from the church gave us free Yankees tickets. And so we went a day early to go sightseeing in the city. The game was on a Sunday, so we decided to go on a Saturday to go sightseeing in the city. And we got a hotel in New Jersey. And then my plan was to take a bus into the city. But the problem was where the bus stop was and our hotel was located, you had to cross like several lanes of traffic. I'm talking like 6 or 7 lanes of traffic. Think Frogger. You remember the game Frogger, the old Atari game? And so that's basically what it was. I thought, man, that's going to be dangerous for me and a 7-year-old, my son Ethan, to be able to cross that much lanes of traffic. And so I said, let's not do that. That's too dangerous. Let's not do that. Rather, it's a better idea to drive into the city, right? Yeah, and so that's what we did. We drive into the city, and we go through the Lincoln Tunnel, which you've ever been through that. It's a really cool thing. And so we get through the Lincoln Tunnel. We're in New York City, like literally in New York City, a couple miles or a couple blocks away from Times Square, right across from the Port Authority. And I got to find a parking spot at this point. It dawns on me that you can't just drive into the city. You got to actually park your car somewhere. And so I'm trying to like find a street, and I finally find a street. I look down the street. I'm like, okay, it seems like a few parking spaces open. There actually was cars parked there, so I thought, I'll just pull right behind them, and we'll park. I get out, and once you know, there's a parking meter that you could pay for a parking ticket right there. So I got 3 hours. I thought 3 hours would be enough time to go sightseeing in the city. And so we get into the city, and we go down to the subway. I don't know why. I just wanted to ride the subway. Where are we going? I have no idea. But let's just get on the subway. And we bought a ticket, which I thought the ticket was good for a few hours. I'm from Wellsville, okay? We don't have buses. We don't do that thing here. So we buy a ticket thinking that it was good for a few hours. And no, it's one ride ticket. So we bought a one ride ticket. We get on the subway, not knowing that. And literally 5 minutes into the subway ride, whatever you call it, the train ride, it stops. Like we're stuck for half an hour. This isn't like hey, we're picking up passenger stop. We're stuck underground. And I'm beginning to panic. Like this is not good. This is not my dream vacation here. But I can't let Ethan, my 7-year-old, know because after all, I'm self-reliant, right? I'm self-sufficient. I don't want him to panic. Meanwhile, we're just like, can you imagine this sitting in the subway for a half an hour? People's body odor is just like wafting up into your nose. It's the most disgusting thing you can ever imagine. And we finally start moving again. And what do? We get off, like at the next stop. I have no idea where we're getting off, but we're just like, I'm out of here. I got to get out of this tin can thing. And so we go up, and I'm expecting as we get up to the city surface, there's going to be like cool things to do, cool things to see. It's New York City, right? I found out that New York City is rather big, and just because you get off at a subway stop doesn't mean that there's all this glitz and glamour. There was no Times Square. There was no Empire State Building where we got off. You know what we got off at? We got off at the projects, okay? There's like houses. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, where are we? And so we go back down the stairs to the subway, but the only problem is we can't get in because I bought the wrong ticket. And so in order to go get another ticket, we had to walk 7 blocks. 7 blocks, and this is 7 city blocks, only in an arcade. This isn't like your blocks. This isn't like blocks here in Wellsville. This mistake cost me a half an hour. We walk a half an hour to get to the subway to purchase a new ticket. So we did. We get on again, and we eventually go sightseeing. And while we're on the subway, there was a girl that, because I told her our scenario, I only got 3 hours, and now it's like 2.5 hours. Do you think they'll like, what's the worst that could happen to our car if we're not there back in time? She said, it happens all the time to me. They just give you a small fine. Don't worry about it. So with that confidence in mind from a complete stranger that I just met, we say, hey, Let's just go dance the night away. Who cares about this parking meter thing? And so we have fun. We go to the Empire State Building. Go ahead and show them that video, guys. This is Ethan and I at the Empire State Building. He's overlooking the city. And I think he said, "Hi, Mom." And isn't that cool? We had such a neat time. There's a picture of us posing and giving the peace sign. And so we did the Empire State Building, and then we went to this place called Lombardi's. Have you ever heard of this place? I saw it on the Food Channel. It was the very first pizzeria ever in the United States. Look at that. That is true Italian pizza. It's bigger than Ethan there. And it was so good. It was so good. And then from there, we just walk around, just try to see what we can find. We actually passed a fire station, and they had the Ghostbusters logo above it. It was really, really cool. Ghostbusters had just come out that summer. So we're having a great time. This is about 10 o'clock at night that this happened. Well beyond the parking meter time. And so I'm expecting a small fine like the stranger told me to. And so we start walking back to the car. And I kind of know where it is, like sort of. We took a picture of, like in the mall, they have these things, "You are here." That didn't help me whatsoever. I remember taking a picture of it just in case I didn't remember where the car was. That didn't help. And so I recognized the street. We go down the street, no car. We go down this street because I recognize that street, and no car. We went up and down, left and right, several blocks, literally all night, and no stinking car. Could not find the thing. It's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night at this point. No joke, we walked around for 2 hours in New York City, could not find our car. We were hopelessly lost. At one point early on in the walk, Ethan, as I'm holding his hand, he looks up at me and says, "Dad, are we lost?" To which my self-reliant self, of course, said, "No, we're not lost. We're just exercising, it's right over here." And we're walking. About an hour later, he asked me the same question, "Dad, are we lost?" To which I had tears in my eyes at this point, to which I said, "We are beyond lost." Like, it's bad. And here's the kicker. At this point in time, it's after midnight. I'm using my phone as a GPS system, not for driving, but for walking, because I don't want to get so lost that we can't find our initial, least mile radius of a block, right? And I noticed on my phone that I got 2% left. Hope is lost at this point. And then Erin texts me. She's back in Wellsville. And she says, "I'd sleep a whole lot better if you let me know that you were safe and sound at the hotel." See, I was supposed to text her that we were safe and sound at the hotel. When we got back to the hotel, the only problem was we weren't back at the hotel. And so I figured there's no point to text her that. And so I have two choices at this point. Knowing my wife, she doesn't sleep well when she worries. I have two choices. I can either tell my wife the truth, that we're lost with our 7-year-old in New York City. We might die here. Or I could lie to my wife. That seemed the more reasonable option at the time, given I only had 2% left. And I just told her, I said this, "Don't worry, sweetheart. We're walking to our car now." Which was the truth, right? We don't know where it is, but I left that part out. "We'll call you in the morning. We'll be safe and sound. Don't worry about us. Just go to bed." So I made it seem like everything was fine. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't fine. And it was so bad. It was just so bad at this point. But none of that would have ever happened if hours earlier I had just asked for help. Now, if only the story were that simple, right? If only the story were we got lost in New York City, we walked around for a couple hours, but no big deal. I eventually got over my self-reliance and asked someone for directions, and they said, yeah, your car's right over there. And they pointed us in the right direction. We got in the car. 5 minutes later, we were back at the hotel. If that were the story, that would have been awesome. That would have been such a great story. No, that's not what happened. This is what happened. I walked to the nearest police station. You know where that was? In the middle of Times Square. It's crazy. There's people all around. Here's the police station. And so I go up to the guy and say, "Hey, could you help us? We've been rocking around for 2 hours. We have no idea where our car is." So he says, "Well, give me the make, the model, and the license plate." I'm like, "License plate? I have no idea what my license plate is. Give me your make, model, and license plate, and I'll run it through our system to see if your car got towed." My heart dropped. I'm like, "Towed? Are you telling me that my car may have gotten towed?" And here I am trusting a complete stranger that the worst thing that could happen is to get a small fine. Oh, well, I got a small fine, all right. He told me before we even got to the place, you need to go to the impound place. And the ticket's probably going to be about $180. I'm like, oh, man. And so I'm like, whatever, we just got to get back to the hotel. I'll pay anything at this point. And it's 10 blocks away, which just so happens to equate to 50 minutes of walking. Like, we're not doing that. So I hitch a taxi, which was the best part of this whole nightmare because Ethan, before the trip, said, Dad, more than anything else, I just want to ride in a taxi. You know, like, we got his wish, right? Yay. And so we're in the back of the taxi riding to the impound place. And we pay the $180 ticket, and we get led to our car. It's like 4 times the size of this room, all 3 churches put together. We walk inside this warehouse with car after car after car. They lead us to our car, and I notice as we're approaching, there's a small piece of paper on the windshield. I thought, that's strange. Must be something that someone's advertising. No. When we get closer to the car, I pick up the thing, and it's a $150 parking ticket. I thought I just paid the ticket. That was $180. No. It's $180 plus the parking ticket. That was $150. It was the most expensive Yankees game ever, okay? And it was horrible. It was a nightmare. We eventually got back to the hotel safe and sound, but none of that would have ever happened if hours earlier I had just admitted how hopelessly lost we were and asked for help. But instead, I waited till I thought we were literally going to die in New York City in order to admit how self-reliant I actually was and how detrimental to myself that was. You see, we celebrate self-reliance over self-poverty. None of us wants to be poor in spirit. But yet, Matthew 5:3 says what? Blessed, happy, fulfilled. Oh, how sweet it is to be poor in spirit. Because it's not until you're broken that you can actually find life.